Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Oh, friends, thanks for joining us for another exciting, engaging, and informative episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. We like to do these special opportunities every so often when we come across a peer who's been in or is still around the industry, but also has some experience or significant experience with investing. And today's a fantastic conversation with someone that, if you don't know, you'll get to know a lot better, and I'm grateful for that. But before we jump in, it's just a simple request. You can do only what you can do, and that is hit that subscribe button. I know you're going to love this episode, so you can just like it now, or you can wait and double like it at the end and throw a lot of positive comments in, because Sandra has a lot to share. But Sandra, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I appreciate it. So excited. Sandra, we want to know, were you born this way, or how did you get into or exposed to the appraisal and valuation industry?
I'll tell you, I was in college and I went to Boston College. I live on the North Shore of Boston.
Oh, wow. I must interrupt only to say I think you are our first BC grad here on the Perusings podcast. Congratulations.
Our motto at BC is ever to excel. Yeah, I was in college and my father was a residential real estate appraiser for a number of years, and he wanted to put an appraisal company together of his own, go off on his own. I helped him put together the packages and reach out to banks and things like that. And I went to school for communications.
Okay.
And when I graduated, he came to me and said, "Why don't you come work for me for the summer? I could use a little extra help. You could always go into advertising in the fall." And I never left.
He lured you in, as they say. He got a hold of you. Just got to pull you in.
Yeah. His appraisal company is still going strong, although I have to say I lost my dad a couple of weeks ago. He passed.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But his wife is running it. And so that's how I got into appraising and in real estate in general. And it was a great job. I actually walked at my graduation engaged. So I got married and had kids, and it was a wonderful job to still do while I was raising children, because I could make my own schedule. If I needed to cancel an appointment because someone was sick, it was easy enough and seamless enough to do. So it worked out really well in that way as a supplemental income to our family. And for a number of years, I was home just with the kids and stopped appraising for a bit and then got back into it.
Got it. No, that makes sense. So here you are, young, impressionable, thinking you're going off to maybe the big advertising world, and you get this little income earning opportunity with dad, and then you never leave. How early on with dad was it that you actually got into the appraisal side of appraising, as opposed to maybe the administrative and operations side of the business?
The administration piece was really small for me. That was just the beginning, and I was just helping him out. He was putting packages together and reaching out to banks, and so I just gave him my advice and insight. Like I said, I was in school for communications, so that was my realm, and what I was going to school for. Very different now. We live in a different world, social media. I'm no spring chicken, and it was different. I was learning billboards and putting together packages and radio advertising. That's all. The landscape of that has changed tremendously, but just helped him with that. And so I just went and got my appraisal license, and I liked it. I liked the job. I liked the blend of being out on the road and in the field, and also sitting at a computer, but there was always interaction with people. It was very different back then. This is 30 years ago. And we used cameras and went to 1 hour photos, and we glued our pictures down and we photocopied every page. And back then you had to go to realtor offices and use their books to get information. Everything's online now and everything's digital. So very different industry in that way. Easier.
I get it. So did you literally get started out from the ground up, and they're like, okay, here's an address, and go visit a property owner and grab us some site information?
Yeah, so I followed him around for a little bit as a trainee. I don't know. I'm sure the rules have changed back then. I think you had to be a trainee for a year and log in a certain amount of hours and give a certain amount of input and keep track of that. And then you
Mhm.
would apply
Yep.
for your license, take the classes, obviously, and apply for your license. We have to take continuing ed every 2 years to keep the
Yep.
licensure up, including use value
Yeah.
measure, the rules and
Yeah.
regs.
Uh, Absolutely. And you harken back to a time that people today in the industry may only be able to remember, and many others have no idea, and they think you're maybe making a Smithsonian reference to the process and the technology then that people used. But what was it like? Was it just like you and your dad when you first started out, or was it a little bit bigger? And did that business change over time?
He took on a business partner at the time, somebody he had worked with, and they put the business together. It was just the two of them for a while, and as the business grew, they took on more people, and everyone had a different territory. Whether
Oh,
it was
sure. Okay.
one person did Boston, one person did Essex County, one person did Middlesex, one person did South Shore, and he structured it that way. He parted ways with his business partner at some point, and his wife, my stepmother, was also an appraiser, and so
Oh,
they ended up running the business together.
oh, interesting. Got it. Okay. And then has it always just kind of stayed like a little small family business, or did it expand over time because of your influence in helping with communication and
I
facing the market?
I did not help with expanding the business. Like I said, I got
Okay.
married and had kids, and I was really focused on that. So it
Oh,
was
okay.
really a job for me more than a career. They've grown over the years, up and down. He was never looking to be a big, huge company. It's a mom and pop business. They like employing local people that they know and really, and it's gone well. They've had a lot of nice people work there.
Uh, That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And did it always stay residential?
Yes, you only do residential. Yeah.
Right. And then,
Commercial's a completely different animal.
oh,
Completely different.
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
completely different animal, a completely different animal. So how did you're one of those unique peers who not only what has been in the industry, but also you took the opportunity to use what you had learned in and around appraisal to also take some opportunities to do some investing.
Yeah, so in the past couple of years, I have flipped a couple of houses. I had a business partner, two different business partners on both of them, and the appraisal experience was invaluable
Yeah.
in that process. Picking the property, knowing exactly what adds and detracts from value,
Yeah.
and also really the underwriting process that I can do to detail because even within a town, you can know a town well, neighborhood to neighborhood, the property values can change. And I like investing in the towns that I know well, which are in Suffolk, Middlesex, and Essex County here in
Yep.
Massachusetts. And even within the confines of those communities, picking towns that I know hold value, even when there's market fluctuations.
Mhm.
So if you get in trouble in a project and your house stays on the market longer, which is can very easily happen with a flip,
Oh, absolutely.
or timing of when it goes on the market. Winter is dead here. Thanksgiving to March, it just that the market just slows down. It's winter and people don't want to move. So I find if you go to certain communities, they don't see the market fluctuation as much as other towns might, or interest rate, because they're just solid towns and people always want to live in them. So I like to look at those towns to invest in. I feel like it's safer and I know them better. So the
Yeah.
the valuation experience and the appraisal experience has been really a great tool. I also, because of the continuing education, you take classes every couple of years. I like to take classes that are interesting because a lot of it can be dry, and also help learn more about property. So I tend to lean towards taking the construction classes that
Yeah.
teach you about roofing, siding, heating systems, type of construction, those kind of things. So again, like in the flips, I can have conversations with plumbers or
Yeah.
HVAC that maybe your average person cannot, because I've taken the classes. I don't know how many classes I've been in, houses I've been in over the course of 30 years, but a lot. So I've seen a lot, you
Yes.
know, you know, some things to look for. Nobody knows what's going to happen when you open walls up, but I know what knob and tube looks like, you
Yes.
know, things like that. I can reckon. I know what a gas line looks like as opposed to a water line. There's things that I know that maybe the average person wouldn't.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And what got you into your first opportunity to move beyond, hey, I've done appraisal and I've got this family exposure and experience, to I'm actually going to take the plunge and be not just maybe a homeowner, but now a property investor?
I think I always wanted to, but wasn't really sure how you get involved in it. I didn't know what a
Mm.
hard money loan was or a
Yeah.
construction loan, how to do a scope of work, how to do a budget, all of those things. And I had a friend at the time who was investing in a property. Her partner backed out, and
Oh,
I had spoken with her about the desire to do it. She was a realtor,
sure.
and she said, "Hey, I lost my business partner in this. Would you like to come in and do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it was a very small starter home, 1,300 square feet. And we went in and did it. And I learned so much. We did not make a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's, you'll get your feet wet in this kind of business if you choose to go down this avenue. And
Yep.
every project will bring different challenges, and it's all learning. But we underestimated the budget, and we had some issues with our first GC that we
Sure.
fired, and ended up running the project ourselves. And things happened for a reason. It worked out well because we interviewed every sub and we ran the
Mm.
project. So we had our hands in every piece of it.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience in that way, even though we didn't really make that much money on it.
Yeah.
Um, I learned so much. And mainly what I learned was how much I liked it. I liked
Oh,
doing all of it. I liked
love
working
that.
with the guys. And
Yep.
even like picking the finishes out was really a
Mhm.
small part of it. It was That's fun, and picking paint colors and light
Yes.
fixtures and everything, but it really is the smallest part of the job. Finding the property, underwriting it, scope of
Mhm.
work, hiring the subs, keeping them on track, all of those things, the bigger part of it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. I appreciate when I hear you say, "Hey, we went after it, and okay, we didn't uh, we didn't make retirement money on it, and we never going to do this again." But instead, so many things by taking the choice. When you have faced with the choice and taking a path, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, sometimes you get to do both. And because it's people are like, "Oh, I lost." I'm like, "No, that's just a moniker that you put on it." But instead, as you pointed out, it's like, all right, here's some things that we know how to go about and choose some of these and choose not those on the next projects.
Yeah. I mean, the second flip I did, I took a bigger bite, a bigger project, something I wanted to do eventually. I live on the North Shore. I live very close to Salem, which city there's lots of
Yeah.
older homes with a ton of character, whether they're the Federalists or these beautiful Victorian homes. And I thought, oh, someday I'd like to buy one of these houses and do more of a restoration than a gut go in where you strip everything
Mm.
off and
Yeah.
put everything back together, kind of maintaining the character of the home. And also when I was looking, it's hard to flip here. Everybody flips,
Really?
homeowners, realtors, GCs. So it's competitive. And then
Yeah.
the buy-in price point is really high
Wow.
for very crappy little houses. $700,000 for a 1,300 square foot house that needs all kinds of work and not even a nice
Wow.
town. So, yeah. And so then you're competing with first time home buyers in that range that will do what they have to do to pay over asking. So
Yeah.
really frustrating, spending all Saturday and Sunday at open houses, making connections with realtors. And finally I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, and started looking at properties over 1 million,
Yep.
weed out those
Weed
first
them
couple.
out. Weed them out.
Yeah,
That's how it
weed them
goes.
out. Went to like more affluent communities and ended up in Newton, where Boston College is,
Sure.
and found a Victorian, like gorgeous home, slate roof, grand foyer. Was blown away by the woodwork and everything when I walked in. But I went and looked at it because it was a 3-family, and my plan was to go in and renovate and sell 3 condos. And I'm going to say this is where my appraisal experience came in again, because as appraisers, we are required to look at highest and best use. And
Yeah.
we answer some questions with that, which is it legally permissible? Is it financially feasible? Is it physically possible? And does it bring the greatest return? So just because property is improved as a 3-family, it doesn't mean it is the best use of the real estate, which is the land and the bundle of rights it comes with. And
Yeah.
so we're always looking at this. And so I went and looked at this 3-family and went back and underwrote it, thinking I'll sell 3 condos. The house was originally a Victorian, a single-family home. It was in the historic district in Newtonville,
Mhm.
and they turned it into a 3-family little by little over the years. It was an
Oh.
investment.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it was an investment property for the people who owned it. They owned it for 30 years or something like that. And so they had taken bedrooms and made them into kitchens. So very
Mm.
small kitchens.
Yep.
There was not 2 forms of egress in any of the units except the first floor.
Oh,
And
man.
so when I underwrote, I said, nobody's going to pay, you know, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 for these condos with these teeny little kitchens.
Yeah.
I said, it's not worth it. It's not going to work. It's not going to have a good return.
That totally makes sense.
Went home, slept on it, woke up the next morning and was like, I love that house. It's
Oh.
gorgeous. So I decided to underwrite it as a single family. And sure enough, the return was there for that. And
Okay.
so I went back and put an offer in, and I converted it back to a single family.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's a great story. And what a wonderful way to just highlights the important steps you took to increase the confidence level and the probability of success by stepping in and investing. You didn't just wing it. You didn't just do some like Zillow search or anything else. It's like, yeah, it had you understood the fundamentals, you knew what to look at, and you identified a clear path to profitability.
I did. And I feel like you have a responsibility, or I feel this way anyways, to come in and leave the neighborhood better. It's
Yeah.
not, for me anyways, it's not just about making money. It's
Mhm.
if I'm going to go in and flip in a town, I'm going to join the community page. I'm going to get the tone of what they want in the community. The people in that community feel very passionate about these properties that are beautiful and have all this character, and they don't love flippers that come in
Mm.
and level these houses or strip off all the character. They really don't. They don't love it. They're quite
Wow.
clear of it on their pages. So we made the
Mhm.
historical commission quite happy. I called them and said, what are my parameters here? Because that varies from town to town. It was not a historical registry home, but it
Mhm.
was an historical district. And you can run into things like whatever it may be. You can't have a garage. You have certain kind of windows. You're not allowed to have gutters, whatever their
Yeah.
parameters are. And they said, are you doing anything to the outside? And I said, just some repairs. And they said, you can do whatever you want to the inside. We don't care.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They were
Okay.
really happy that the house was restored, and the neighbors were as well.
Yeah. That makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
I've had that experience. Then, like when you talk to the historical commission, they're like, "What's going on to the exterior?" And same thing. They're like, "Hey, honestly, we don't care what's going on the inside because when this has been rated and what." I'm like, "Oh, okay, great." And unfortunately, the contractor didn't pay attention to some of those things, and that was a really big effing mistake. It was expensive.
Yeah.
It's important to, especially in those kind of environments in that kind of setting, to understand the constituents.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess in this real estate game we're in, whatever facet you're in, and there's tons of them, your relationships with the people you partner with and work with are essential to everything. Trust is essential. Being clear. I cannot stress enough. Contracts are so important.
Yeah.
I had a bad experience with not covering myself with contracts. That will
Mm,
not happen to me again.
yeah.
But everything's a learning process. And this project, it had a good return. It was a good project to get into. I loved doing it because of the restoration piece. Like, how do I go in and modernize systems and get new kitchens and baths, because that's what everybody wants. but
Yeah.
where do I leave and protect the splendor of this property and what someone will be looking for in this particular market segment? Because the new construction sells lower than the old restorations do.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is true. It's funny. I ran into trouble with a hard money lender with it. Actually, it was a private lender. We were looking for some private money for gap funding, and
Mhm.
one of the lenders was out of state and said, "I don't know what's going on, but in your area, I looked at comps and the new construction selling lower, so I don't feel comfortable with what your ARV is."
Well, yeah,
And I
because
had
because the other markets, that's how it's there, but like this market isn't that.
Yeah. So I said, "You don't understand the market here. I live in a segment where these older homes are coveted in Newton. They just
Yeah.
are. That's what people want. It's part of why they go to that community." So it's just funny. And that's okay. There's community in any kind of project like this that you pull together, and everybody should feel good about it. I don't want anybody to come in that I have to drag kicking and screaming into a project. Come in because you're excited about it. It's a team effort. I like that part of it, the collaboration. I love the butterfly process
Yeah.
of a flip where kind of everything is gets worse and worse. You go there every day and you're like, "Oh my God, there's more holes in the walls. What is that? I
I
never
can't
saw."
believe I made this choice. This was terrible. I shouldn't have done
Yeah,
this.
it gets worse and worse in the beginning, and then little by little it starts to come together. And
That is so
I
true.
love that process of it. But I do think everyone should feel excited when they invest in real estate. And it doesn't mean it's not without risk, because
It
it's
is.
calculated risk, and you do your
It
best
is.
with your appraisal experience or whatever your experience is that you bring in
Yeah.
to mitigate as little risk as possible. But it is risk to come in and do it. So yeah, we're all a little bit nervous going into a project, and you will.
That's so true.
It's a moving target. The numbers are a moving target, and the things that
Yeah.
you do are a moving target. But it can be great fun and excitement, and that when the end product comes, you feel really proud of what you did and that you created a home for somebody.
The market right now is tough for appraisal companies. Many companies are having a hard time getting enough work with the same marketing they used to. Is your company struggling, having a hard time getting new customers, or getting additional work from existing customers? The answer to this problem is easier than you think. Do more business with the people you already know. Over 10 years, the average US appraisal firm meets over 17,000 potential customers. That's a lot of people you could be doing business with right now. But it's a big problem if you don't have a proven process to communicate with them. Storylux turns this problem into an opportunity to grow. Our advanced AI marketing tool can rebuild your contact lists and harvest long-forgotten communications. Imagine reaching out to everyone you've ever met with just one click. For the cost of 1 or 2 appraisals a month, Storylux helps you reconnect and market to people who already know you, like you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Act now by contacting Storylux today to turn your business growth dreams into reality. Email appraisal@storylux.com. That is appraisal@storylux.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode.
Oh my goodness. That is such a wonderful reminder of all the great experiences and even some of the difficult ones. But that type of work, especially in all real estate, most people tend to have their entry in the residential, even single family market. But nonetheless, there's someone on the other side of that is benefiting from the work that's been done.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that is something else. Obviously, we have a lot of people that are in and or around or have been in the industry that haven't taken the steps that you have. When you reflect on the investment, some of the investments that you've chosen fix and flips. I've done that. I've done new construction. I've done value add, a lot of acquiring and holding for as a portfolio. But from your standpoint, like, what are some of the big things that you're glad you learned, but you would have loved to have learned those early on?
Definitely the contract piece of it is important. I think when you partner with people, you business is different than either friendships or personal relationships. And I actually think if you have personal relationships with people, the contracts are even more important because it makes everything clear instead of verbal, hey, this is how it's going to go. So I guess know yourself, know what works for you, the type of people you want to work with, and just make sure that everything's clear and on paper
Mhm.
from the beginning. I think having the underwriting part of it is really important. Don't don't be loosey goosey with your
Mm.
comps when, and if you're not an appraiser, you're not an appraiser. Enlist the house help of an appraiser. And realtors look at things very differently than appraisers do. They have very different guidelines. They're allowed to use basement area in the GLA.
Yeah.
We are not. Anything 1% below grade, it does not go in the living area. It can go on as an amenity
Got
if
it.
it's finished, but it's not living area.
Got it.
They will count bedrooms that don't have closets. We are also not allowed to do that. So realtors are invaluable sources for
Yeah.
comps. They really
Yeah,
are
yeah,
in
yeah.
neighborhoods and the tone of the market, and they have direct contact with buyers. So
Yes.
that stuff is great.
Ooh,
Really, because us
important.
appraisers don't have that, and they are really invaluable in those ways. But I think as far as taking things down in underwriting, you really
Yeah.
should have conversations with appraisers as well.
Mhm. No, I
So
totally
that part of it,
understand.
the underwriting piece is really important.
Yeah.
Scope of work is really important.
Got it.
And padding in for unexpected things is really important.
Woo, having that buffer, huh?
Yeah, you have to. You will, if you open walls, you will find things. You just will.
It's like I wasn't looking forward to surprises, or I thought there could be some surprises, but I didn't expect this kind of surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to know how to work a budget. You have to pay attention to your numbers.
Yep.
I would say overshoot your budget. I would rather, if you do a hard money loan and you're taking out a rehab loan, I would take out at least 10 to 15% more than you need.
Mm.
You only, with the construction portion of a hard money loan, you only pay on what you've used. It's not
Yeah.
like your main loan, the main part of the loan for purchasing the house, that monthly interest payment is the same. But
Mhm.
so that if you say your rehab budget was 300 and you took 350, if you
Yep.
only use the three, you're only going to pay interest on that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's helpful feedback on that stuff. Wow, that's phenomenal. And then I appreciate how you discussed a way to reduce the competitive environment by moving to a different market segment than where there was a lot more activity. Obviously, you got to know that even better because there's more zeros involved. But nonetheless, are you inclined to stay in that same kind of lane as you continue to invest? Or are you going to maybe move around a bit, either geographically or in product type?
I would say yes on all of that. I would
Okay.
love geographically to move someplace else. I think sometimes the valuation experience I have in my segment, it's wonderful here. But
Yeah.
when I go to another segment that I know nothing about, I'm like a fish out of water because I want to be able to feel as
Mm,
comfortable as I do investing here. And
yeah.
it's not like that. And so I have to be that person relying on realtors, wholesalers, brokers, and appraisers to say, why is there a market fluctuation from this neighborhood to neighborhood or this town to town? Or even
Hmm.
if you're looking at things like I was looking in Florida for a little while, and it can vary on what type of water a property is on. Like
Mm,
they both have a boat slip. Why
yeah.
is this one more than the other one? That's a new realm for me, but I love the idea of putting myself out of my comfort zone and doing that. And I definitely would. As far as this market segment goes, I like luxury properties. I feel like I know there's a lot of people that, and I know I'm in a capital raising mentorship program out of Austin, Texas, and
Oh,
there's people nationwide that invest in whether they're doing fix and flips or what they're doing, but the in other segments can be $200,000 for a house. They're putting 35 in for their rehab and they're selling it for 275 or three and making $35,000. And I'm thinking, what are you doing to this house for $35,000? Because construction costs where I live are insane. My electrical budget on the last house was 39,000. My paint budget was 25,000. My
oh,
plumbing was 40,000. So I don't know what other people are doing, but that's not possible here. So for me to have a margin of $35,000, I wouldn't touch it around here, because if you have one thing go wrong in a project, if your house stays on the market a couple of months, you're in trouble. You're underwater.
Yeah.
People aren't getting paid back, and you're not making money. I think people look and say, oh, you're buying a house for $1 million, you're putting 500,000 in, you're hoping to get over 2 million for it. The margin is bigger though. So if you invest in a property that's going to make over 6 figures, or say a margin of 200 or 300,000, you can have so many things go wrong
That's
and
true.
still make some money.
Yeah.
Even if in the end it's
That's
only
true.
$35,000, you're not stressed if the house sits on the market a little bit longer, or
Yeah.
something goes wrong with the project and the rehab budget went up $40,000, or whatever it may be. Bigger risks, harder to get loans, harder to raise private capital, but bigger rewards and more of a safety net, which is more important. That
Yeah.
safety net of not being panicked if you go over the lighting budget or the tile budget or whatever it may be that comes up, or that you want to do, that you see for the project. So that piece of it. So as far as fix and flips, I would stay in the bigger realm with the bigger returns for safety reasons. And
Yeah.
it's fun doing luxury projects anyways. And then also I am interested in getting into co-living.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm not sure that everyone else may be as familiar as I am about it. Love to say a little more about that.
So this is new for me. I know people that do it. I've been having some good conversations with people. So again, the buy-in around here is really expensive. So, multifamilies, if it's been rehabbed and done over, you're over $1 million. And granted, the rents are very high, but they still don't cover it. So those days of buying a multifamily and you're cash flowing a couple $1,000s a month, it's not that easy to do. Not saying it can't be done,
Yeah.
but it's not that easy to do. So
That's true.
I like the idea of co-living, but for me, again, with like that notion of coming in and making things better, in addition to making money, I like co-living with a purpose. I feel like there's a huge need for veteran housing where I live. I love the idea of pulling co-living together and offering veterans housing. I think it's great to do it with a purpose. It fulfills a need. I have so much respect for the veterans in our country and what the
Yeah.
sacrifices they make to protect our liberties. But I also feel like a lot of these gentlemen, and there's women too, but it's primarily gentlemen, they're living alone. And the community piece of living in a home environment, like a real home with a kitchen and a living space and a yard and a deck and all of those things, there's a community and a socialization and a comfort and a shared background piece that is really appealing to me, and I think it would be appealing to them too.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. And does that give you an opportunity to expand into other geographic markets then, looking at that possibility?
I would, but I think I would get my feet wet here because I know the area and I know some local people who do loans for veterans, so they're very closely connected with veterans housing and things like that. I know another gentleman who runs a veteran organization that sends packages over to military. They send care packages over to them. So I know a fair amount of people in my community that I can have good conversations with because I know nothing and I'm starting from the ground up. And co-living's fine. I could just do co-living and let
Yeah.
people live together, but I just like the purpose of it as well.
I get that. Yeah, definitely get that. Wow, that's fantastic. I'm encouraged to hear that. There's always so many unique segments. I think that's the thing I have appreciated most from when I first started investing. And it's like I knew there was things I didn't know, and I didn't know what I didn't know. And then as I got in, oh, wait a minute, that's another way to do some version of this. I didn't even know that existed. For instance, you mentioned co-living. I've seen so many of those. And obviously, the more time around a particular industry or segment, there's not a lot of new things, or it's kind of like you think you've seen it all, and then every once in a while, something else pops up, and you're like, maybe that one's going to work. maybe I'm excited about it, or maybe I'm just going to sit back and watch and see if you get it done. And if so, I'll be more interested. Otherwise, that's not a risk level I want to take on.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that's great about real estate is the communities. And
Yeah.
honestly, like even if you have a conversation with somebody and they're doing something you're not really necessarily interested in doing, they're all still worthwhile conversations to have
Yeah.
and meeting new people. And that's been an unexpected piece of it is the relationships you build within the communities, even if they just end up being friendships. And there's so many ways to help other people. Like even if somebody's doing something you're not necessarily interested in, maybe they've never taken a hard money loan before, and I'm like, oh, I know a guy, he's great. He's not only good at getting the loans, but he's good at problem solving,
Yeah.
those kind of
Wow.
things, or hand holding, which
Mhm.
so many of us need when we're trying
Oh,
something
yeah.
new. Like
Early
who's going
on.
to be that person that I can be like asking 4,000 questions and they're not annoyed with me because I've called texted them 20 times today, because we all do this. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer to that, and all of these real estate forums on Facebook are wonderful for that,
Mhm.
getting information. So I would say to anybody, whether you're an appraiser or old to real estate or new to real estate,
Mhm.
you can do whatever it is you want to do. You
Yeah.
just need the right support and answers and a little bit of guts
Yeah.
and a little bit of screw it. I'm not going to let my fear overtake me. And
Exactly.
the acceptance, like you said, that you don't know everything and that you'll have some learning experiences probably with every new thing you try. That's just life. That's just
Yeah.
life. It's all new experiences we're learning things from, but don't be afraid to ask questions. None of us knew all of the answers before we started. I still know what I learn is the more I do, I feel like the less I know and the more I want to find out. And you just get back in there and try.
Yeah. No, that's good. That completely makes sense. And then for those that you might have piqued their interest, what can you tap into as someone who has roots in the appraisal profession, family roots as well, but that really have given you an edge up, given you the advantage that you wouldn't have had if you didn't have your start in appraisal?
I think there's a possibility that I would have ended up trying to flip a house anyways. I feel I honestly just my humble opinion in this country in particular, everybody should be in real estate in one facet or another. And most people are, because you're buying houses and you buy your own primary home and you're in real estate, like it or not, you own a home. So, but I do think there's a lot of opportunity. I think these kids coming out of school with all this college debt are petrified of how they're going to be able to buy houses,
Yeah.
and knowledge is power. There's lots of different loan programs out there. There's lots of different avenues, but you don't know what you know until you know it. And so
Mhm.
get in there and ask questions. I was lucky to have the appraisal experience. It did provide, w- even when that first business partner came to me and said, do you want to do this project with me? Because she lost the
Mhm.
business partner. I had access to MLS and knew exactly how to pull comps for the property.
Oh, I
No,
love it.
I had no idea how much plumbing budget was, but I did know how to pull comps. And it was the town next to me. I've done a million appraisals there. So I felt comfortable because of that. But I wouldn't say, oh, if you don't have appraisal experience, don't do it, because I didn't have experience in a whole bunch of the other parts of it, like hiring subs, running subs, picking out materials. Where do you go to do that? How do you hire subs?
Yeah.
How do you trust them? What kind of contracts do you need? How do you do a scope of work? Those were all new. So you just learn as you go. But if not, what I would say is partner with somebody
Mhm.
your
Got that.
first couple of times, whatever it is. I think for me, for the co-living, I would like to partner with somebody because it's not my arena. So I would feel more comfortable coming in. I can bring things to the table, whatever they may be, whether it's my connections I have with some of the veteran people or my real estate expertise or finding the property or underwriting it, and then the other person can bring the co-living experience that they have to the table. And it's a really nice marriage when you do those things.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fantastic. So given where you're at this point, the timing of our bringing this in is still Q1. What are you looking forward to or optimistic about over the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
I would like to do more flips. I would like to do the co-living. I'm always looking for connectors and capital raisers for private money lending, which is hard money is a form of private money. But when I say that, private money lenders, people who come in and invest their own money in projects, they get promissory note, they get a lien position, they get put in the insurance. People who are willing and desiring to make some money off of cash they may have instead of investing in the stock market, that would like to invest in real estate projects. More connections in that arena.
Yeah.
That is challenging, and with me picking big projects, it's lofty. So like I said, you and I talked about this. Sometimes there's something somebody else is doing you're not interested in doing. I am not interested in capital raising. I have found it's not my forte. Don't like doing it. I feel like it's not how I want to spend my time. I do every other aspect of the flip from front to back. So looking to connect with more people who do that that's always a goal, is to find more private money lenders.
Yeah, totally get that. Totally get that. I really appreciate, Sandra, you coming on and joining us for one of our special seasons of a Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast, because it's this wonderful sense of community where we can all learn and grow from each other's life's pursuits and pathways, as well as the things you've been exposed to and the choices that you've made that provide insight as well as even inspiration to others. I'm thrilled, and I want to say thank you again for giving us this time today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation. I always love to talk real estate.
Sounds familiar. My wife jokes with me all the time. She goes, I'm never really worried that you would cheat on me because all you ever do is look at properties and then talk real estate. Now I'm like, right on, honey. Love you lots.
Fantastic.
Friends, thanks for joining us for this episode. And hey, if something or anything in this particular special episode this season piqued your interest, feel free to reach out to Sandra. How should they contact you?
I guess I could drop my email in the chat.
Oh yeah, that'd be fine. We can definitely post that when this goes live, and you can just say it out right now here too.
It's foxfioretti@gmail.com. So there you see my maiden name in the middle. So it's Fox, just like the animal, then Fioretti@gmail.com.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Friends, until the next episode, hey, go do well at what you do, and maybe follow Sandra and use some of your extra time to also build wealth through investing. Wonderful. Until the next episode, friends.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.